folks checked in. As I call your name, if you could just confirm that if you do have a name on the screen, that name is correct. If not, if you could tell me what your name is, and then if you could tell me who it is you're representing here today, whether you're a neighboring property owner or someone else involved with this application in some way. So I'll start with Abby Schweppe.
Yeah, it could be Abigail, but Abby Schweppe, and I'm a neighbor of Jared.
Okay, great. So are you on Hoff Street then, or?
Yeah, we live at 2828 Hoff. We own properties at 312 and 316 Audubon. So like kind of where like dog legs a little bit around Hoff.
Sure. Okay, great.
I'm sure dog legs is a technical term, right?
I think so.
You know what I'm saying.
Got at least one architect on the call. We can ask him. Mr. Hampton, welcome back. You are the applicant on the project, is that right?
Yes, I'm architect for the owner.
Okay, great. Welcome. Let's see, Jane Seitz. Ms. Seitz, if you could unmute.
I'm Jane Seitz. I'm adjacent to Hoff Street, a resident.
Okay, welcome. All right, Jared McFadden.
Yeah, I'm Jared McFadden. I'm the property owner with the house in question, or the zoning variance in question. And I also own 2845 Hoff, the adjacent property owner next to the lot that what I would like to build on.
Okay, great. Welcome, Mr. McFadden.
Thanks.
Looks like I have two people under the name Annie. If you could unmute for me. Mute button is typically in the bottom left of the Zoom application. So below all the squares, or below the one square. Toward the left.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Annie Neighborhouse.
And I'm Paul Neighborhouse.
Okay,
We
could you
own
spell your last name
property
for
on
me?
Hoff Street, 2837, 2843, and other numbers on the east side of the street.
Okay, great. And could you spell your last name for me?
Naberhaus.
Neighborhouse.
See.
Okay, great. And sir, remember your first name again?
Paul. Paul.
All right. All right. Thank you both for being here. I have a Rich Bohanna.
Yes, I'm the property owner on the east side of Jared's property.
Okay, welcome. And finally, we have Wes Menzel from the zoning department. Welcome, Wes.
Morning.
All right. On the applicant owner side, are we expecting anyone else to join us here today? Or are we ready to get started?
Nope, we're ready.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and read through our hearing script. This will basically just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we will jump right into it. So this is the October 11th, 2023 session of the Zoning Hearing Examiner docket. Again, my name is David Sturkey. I'm the Zoning Hearing Examiner for the City of Cincinnati. I'll preside over this hearing today. The case before us today is case number ZH20230145. That's 2850 Hoff. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any potential opposing parties to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any potential opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, and the owner will first have an opportunity to present their case. Background they think is important, why they think that I should grant the relief that they're requesting. I'll then turn it over to the public. So anyone from the public, all the neighbors that we have here, will have an opportunity to speak if they would like. They don't have to after the applicant has presented its case. I will hear from the zoning plans examiner, Wes Menzel. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that testimony and or argument that was offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to try to troubleshoot those issues on the fly. But to the extent that there is some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, looks like we have one more person attempting to join, so I'm going to try to bring that person in. If you'll just bear with me for 1 minute. Hi, Fawn Thompson, are you with us? If so, if you could unmute.
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. So is Fawn Thompson your name?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And who are you representing here today, or what is your interest in the case?
Property owner right across the street.
Okay, great. Welcome. So I just read through our hearing script. We're just about to get started with the hearing. Do you intend on providing any testimony here today?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. At that time, when you are going to be providing testimony, I'll ask that you activate your camera so that we have video and audio during that testimony. And in fact, I'm about to swear in all of our witnesses. So if you could activate that camera now, that would be helpful.
Okay.
So for anyone that intends on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, asking any questions, really doing anything other than just strictly observing, then the zoning code requires that that you provide sworn testimony. So I'm going to collectively swear all of those people in. So if you know that you would like to provide some testimony here today, if you could go ahead and take yourself off of mute now. I'll need everyone to raise their right hand, and I need everyone to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Okay, great.
I
Thanks,
do.
everyone. Okay, thank you, Ms. Thompson. All right. Who's going to be taking the lead for us here? Will it be Mr. Hampton or Mr. McFadden?
I will be.
Okay, Mr. Hampton, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, David. So what we have is a new single family home on a currently vacant site. The site at one point in the past had a building on it. It's been long demolished. What we're asking for is relief from the height requirements, specifically the buildable envelope because of the hillside district. So we are a 3-story house, but due to the site, we exceed that buildable envelope as we go further down the hillside. We've got a site that is very steep at the bottom of it, which kind of really pulls down our allowable height in terms of what we can build across the depth of that site. What we're asking for is very similar to what has been previously granted variances on Hoff and the adjacent Walworth development have been granted variances very similar to what we're asking for. The house otherwise complies with all setbacks and other requirements. We're not cutting very much in the hillside. We're using a pier system, so we're minimizing our cuts into the hill. Again, just the steepness of the hill really limits the buildability of that site. And so we're asking for the variance for that height to allow us to have a true 3-story house, and similar to what is exists in the neighborhood and has been.
Mr. Hampton, sorry to interrupt. Just so that we're all clear and we're all on the same page, could you identify exactly what relief you are requesting? The extent of that relief.
Yes. So at am I able to share the screen? It might be easier to show the. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, please do.
Okay. Sorry. I should have done that earlier. So this is our site section. Hoff is on the left. The slope of the hill goes down to the right, down to the railroad right of way. And this dashed line is our buildable envelope. And because of the slope of the hill, it very dramatically limits what 3rd story we can build. So basically, we without a variance, we really want to be able to build a third story at all, which is allowed by right in this zoning district. So you can see at the front of the building, we are within our allowable height, but because of that slope, it really limits what we can do. Most of that third floor area is an outdoor roof deck, which is the top right here. And so there's only a portion of the third floor that exceeds that. So basically, we're asking for the variance of about 12.5 feet at that highest point of the roof at the top right above our buildable envelope. Other than that, everything else is within there.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind leaving that up, but I think when I interjected there, you were talking about piers and stepping. Could you, while you have this up, could you maybe talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. So as you can see, you can see the dash lines are existing slope. The solid lines are proposed slope. Our actual building is just the gray area here that steps pretty lightly into the hillside. These rectangles are all piers that are drilled down to stabilize based on our geotechnical engineer. And so our actual cuts into the hillside for any livable space are very minimal. So we're only about 2.5, 3 feet at the most. Everything else are drilled piers to keep that building solid, but also minimize the cuts in the hillside. So we're trying to tread as lightly as we can on this site because there are limits of how far you can dig into the hillside on the with the hillside overlay district.
Okay, great, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Hampton, you'd like to share or to tell us about this project?
Could be a 10.
No, I think that's it. Again, other than just we're matching what has been previously granted variances on adjacent property. So we're asking for some similar relief.
Gotcha. Okay, and so this is the, as I look at just Google Maps and Cages, it doesn't appear that there are any homes to the east of this lot. Is that correct?
I believe they're not directly to the east.
Okay.
As you keep going east, it becomes the newer the Walworth site, the Homerama site, and all the homes down that way. So yes.
Gotcha. And so will this have any impact on neighboring properties' views or any public viewing places views?
I don't believe it impacts any public view. Directly above us, there is only vacant lots, but then to the northwest, I believe there's a house there. Sorry, I don't have the exact address in front of me here. But that should not impact it greatly. So,
okay.
David, can I add one comment? Am I allowed to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. You and Mr. Hampton, this is your opportunity.
Yeah, this is Jared McFadden. So one other point that I wanted to add was the lower level here is a garage space, and that does also limit my livable space. That's why I'm pushing for that extra living space on that third floor. It does eat up most of that first floor with the garage. So just wanted to add that.
Sure. Okay. Anything else from Mr. Hampton or Mr. McFadden before we move on to the public?
no.
Okay, great. Let me go ahead and stop sharing. Okay, I will start sort of in the same order as I check folks in. So Ms. Schweppe.
Yes, yep. So we're at 2828 Hoff. So we're to the west of Jared. We have pretty much the same footprint going on, and we also had to apply for the variance for the height. Similar thing, we have the garage that we had to build because that wasn't grandfathered in like a lot of the other homes are, so we were going to be taking out almost the full top floor of our home. So I want to say that we built or applied for the variance in 2015 and were granted that. So we're extremely supportive of this. We think that it's good for the neighborhood. We love having Jared as a neighbor and don't want him to leave our neighborhood either. So, it's been close to probably a decade that we've known him now by living up here, and would prefer that he stay and get to build the house that he's been wanting to build.
Okay, great. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your testimony. And I did receive your email correspondence as well that will become a part of the record.
Okay. If you have any questions or want to see our variant, I'm sure you can look them up or see our floor plans or anything like that. We're happy to provide anything that's helpful.
Sure. No, just let me know the address and the general year. I can find it in our database. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Ms. Seitz, and then we will go to the neighbor houses. Ms. Seitz, anything you'd like to add?
Mr. Sturkey, I would rather folks who are closer to that, and in particular Fawn Thompson. I do have concerns over what has already been said, but does it matter what order we go in?
In terms of the public comment, not particularly. You're saying you'd rather go after Fawn?
Exactly, because one, she's directly impacted, and I am secondary to that kind of impact, as well as I would say the neighbor houses.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's fine. I'll come back to you. We'll move on to the neighbor houses, and then to Mr. Poana, and then to Ms. Thompson, and then back to the sites.
What?
Is there anything you'd like to provide, Paul or Annie neighbor house?
We would be impacted. We own probably most of the vacant lots to the north,
To the uphill.
to the uphill. I don't know the exact addresses. I know one is 322 Audubon we own. That's the corner lot. That's a big lot. And probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 more on that end of Hoff Street on the south side. So that so we don't just own 2 houses. We also have a question about the numbering of the houses, just out of curiosity. It was very confusing because our houses, which are on the same side of the street, are all uneven numbers.
Odd numbers.
They're all odd numbers. And this is 2850. It was very confusing. I had to just out of curiosity.
I'll add to that. It's a matter of some importance because I don't know what the city's ideas are, but if the city thought to build another road through there, and that would put it on the opposite side of the street, therefore it would deserve an even numbered number. There's no intention of that, is there, as far as anybody in the city's employee knows?
I will, if Mr. Munzel, who is our lone city representative here today, knows anything about that, I'll allow him to comment on that after public comment, but I certainly don't know of anything and didn't see anything about that in the application materials.
I mean,
and let me,
you guys, the city may have to do something with the sewers or do something with the water, which could impact the street. Am I right?
I don't know the answer to that question. I will allow the owner and the applicant, if at this point, do you all know anything about the questions that Mr. Neighborhouse is asking, or how it impacts this application?
Steve, you want to answer?
About any of the utilities network, I don't know that. For the numbering, I'm trying to find, there is some discrepancy in the city records in terms of what's on the auditor and what is on Cages. I think I had sent an email to Wes when we were going back and forth on that. And so that's.
Let me make sure that we're all perfectly clear on exactly what the site is here. And Mr. Hampton, can you confirm that the red box here is the parcel in question?
Yes, it is.
Is there anyone that does not know where that is based on this image? Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Hampton. Okay, Mr. Neighborhouse, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. McFadden. Go ahead.
I think the discrepancy I think where it is the auditor has it as 40, that parcel, I get a tax bill for that parcel is 4849 and 4850. For some reason, they give me 2 addresses, but the city of Cincinnati's recognize it in most cases, building department and other cases. So the county has it as kind of 2 addresses. and the city has it as 2849. I don't know why that is the case, but that's how it's recorded with the Hamilton County Auditor, if that makes sense. But I don't know the reasoning. I have two addresses for that one spot.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other comment from the neighbor houses?
Well, we look favorably upon building development on Hoff Street. And I see what you're planning to do to the architect, Mr. I can't read your name, it's too
The
small.
architect.
Sure, Mr. Hampton. Yep.
Mr. Hampton. And it seems to me it works for the city's long-term concept of infill housing, which I know has been around for years. So it's okay with us, I'd say. But wait a minute, let me check my phone.
I have concerns because if we want to build on the opposite side, then all of this, the third story is going to impact what we might want to build on the opposite side.
Could you all at the city level help us to draw that line that indicates your roof line, your highest projection, to draw that to the other side on some sort of an elevation view of Hoff Street, to draw it on the other side to see where it intersects the hillside?
Someone from the West, can you chime in here? Someone from the city may be able, outside of this hearing, to provide like a line of sight drawing.
Yes.
But I just don't know. Wes, is there anything you can offer here?
I'm just looking at the topography map on Cages. So, I mean, the lots or parcels that go towards Columbia Parkway from Hoff, I mean, those are all 10, 20, up to 30 feet higher.
Wes,
So
if the neighbor houses were to contact the city, do you know if there's anyone within the building department that could offer them
an elevation view of Hoff, both sides.
elevation view of Hoff? Do they offer that anywhere in the building department?
what do you mean by elevation view?
Well,
I can
photography?
let me interject here. I'm sorry. We can't offer that to you right now during the hearing. I will give you information and we can talk offline if that's something you would like to receive. I just don't know that we can say for certain right now whether or not the city can
that's
provide
fine.
that to you.
That's fine.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. But happy to try and assist after the hearing. So it sounds like you do have concerns about the height to the extent that it may impact views from development, potential development across the street. Is that right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. Anything else you all would like to offer?
Not at this time, not me.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being here and thank you for your perspective on this hearing.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to move to Mr. Pohana, who I see does have a Cincinnati email tag, but is appearing today in his individual capacity. Is that right, Mr. Pohana?
Correct. I own the property on the east side of the lot on the question here.
Okay. Anything you'd like to offer?
Yeah, I have no objection. I'm all in favor of approving the requested variances. It's consistent with the previous variances on Hoff and on Walwood Street that were given. The structure itself fits with the terrain. And if you look at, the additional 12.5 feet is at the rear of the building. So even if, the variance wasn't granted, I'm looking at that line so even the front of the building could still, be at the height that that's shown. And
let me give you some demonstrative here.
Right. So, adding that 12 and a half at the rear isn't blocking anyone's or adding any obstruction to anyone's views. Because, it's the front of the building. If there was anything that would, block that height or line of sight.
Gotcha. So you think if it was 12 feet here, 12
Well,
feet here would block it,
Sure.
but since it's 12 feet down here, the line of sight
Right.
won't be as impacted by the height variance. Is that right?
Correct. Now, I believe the property immediately across the street is owned by the city of Cincinnati. The large parcel there.
Okay. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Poena?
No, just as I said, I'm all in favor of the granting the variances.
Okay, great. Thank you for being here and thank you for your perspective on this.
I think this is Jared again. I think I've checked. I believe Rich is right. Directly across the parcel, directly across from the house is owned by the city of Cincinnati. When checking the auditor's site.
Okay, got it. All right, gonna move on to Fawn Thompson. And Ms. Thompson, just taking a stab in the dark here. Do you know who Ivy Thompson is? Is that also someone that's someone you know or someone in your family?
Yes, she actually owns the property across the street next to my property.
Gotcha. Let me just real quick. Do you know if she's going to provide any testimony, Ms. Ivy Thompson, if you're there?
I am here. Thank you very much. Yes.
Well, so
Just
if so, thank you. You'll have that opportunity. If so, I'm going to come back to you. But if you could, while we get through these next couple speakers, if you could activate your camera so that we can take your testimony with the video camera on, that would be great. And we will be right back. Sorry, Ms. Fawn Thompson, the floor is now yours. If you'd like to unmute, what would you like to tell us?
Thank you very much. And Ivy, get ready. He's going to have to swear you in. Thank you very much. My concerns that I want to share today, one, are related to city notification. As it was stated, there was a previous variance that was granted. We did not receive information about that in 2015. So I was pleased to see Jared's come through. We're excited about his developing. He has been a great neighbor. The previous variance that was granted impacted other neighbors. So I want to be mindful of that. There was discussion of future development and the property right next to mine, which would be Ivy Thompson's, and the neighbor houses on the other side. There could be future development, or we could choose to do something different with 2842, which is my property. We sit higher. The elevation is higher for our side of the street. So we have a little bit of an advantage on our side of the street, which is good. But Jared, I will ask you, can you explain, and I think this will help, maybe Mr. Sturkey can get a rendering to show the height of the homes on Hoff, as well as your new development. But I think it might help to paint the picture if you tell how high you're going compared to the existing properties that are there.
Is that something, Mr. Hampton or Mr. McFadden, you are able to do today during the hearing? I will add to, for the record, that the zoning code requires that I actually physically visit these sites. That is not like anything super technical. It's really just getting out to the sites and getting a feel for them on the ground level. And so I will have more comfortability than what I'm sort of looking at right now on my screen with, what that actually feels like out there. But Mr. McFadden or Mr. Hampton, are you able to provide any sort of demonstrative that illustrates the differences in height there?
No, I do not have a drawing of the adjacent properties. I believe the ones on the south side of Hoff, just double checking on Google here, are approximately 2-story structures. And again, on the north side, looks like it'll be a 2-story as well, but with the retaining wall and the high foundation, as Ms. Thompson said, it does sit higher. But no, I do not have an exact height for any of those.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't exactly know. I know I own the property, directly to the west. It is a 2-story with a gable roof and an attic. I don't know what the exact height of that is. I could probably figure that out for mine, the one that I own. And I think the other houses that then head to the west are very similar in height as well. But to answer Fawn's question, I don't know the exact height of those. I could,
I'm looking to see if I can find ours.
yeah.
No worry. And Abby, maybe, I guess my concern was, Jared, is it going to be as high as Abby's, or that's just what I wanted? I thought, not look for a picture, not show a picture of that, but just share. Is it going to be as high, taller, what? I did not think, based on our conversation, it would be as high.
No, I don't again, I don't know exactly the height, because I don't have her drawings or know her height, but I don't believe it's as high. And when I tried, the goal was not to build it within the envelope, but not understanding the envelope went down the terrain. So I was trying to build that just under that, to the 32-foot high versus the 35, but then the back of the house, clips that envelope, which Steve helped me understand. So at the time, so again, the goal was not to build as high as I could. It was to try to be within the envelope. But again, I didn't look at Abby's in their houses, how tall it is, but I believe it's shorter. I don't know exactly though. I think Abby might have to help me how tall hers, if she can find it somewhere.
Yeah, I did pull the drawings as part of our research in terms of the previous variances. We are a couple feet shorter at the Hoff Street side than 2828. So I can't tell the exact amount, but it is certainly not. It is certainly shorter than 2828. So, but by how much, I can't tell you exactly.
Thank you very much. That was something that I gleaned from the conversation, and that was a concern, and I thought it'd be good to make sure that everybody understood that here. Again, Mr. Sturkey, I will say that there have been other variances. It was mentioned Walworth Junction, and I believe there was a blanket variance given for that. And there was one in Linwood on Eastern, and they proposed A through L sites, but they only approved A and B because there were designs for A and B. The others were not approved. So again, I think we have an advantage because our elevation is higher on my side of the street. We support development on Hoff. We definitely want to make sure that Jared is able to stay. Okay.
So thank you very much for that, for your testimony and your perspective here today. Not trying to distill this down to just support or not support, but do you have a general stance on whether you would like these variances to be approved?
No, I'm not opposed.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you so much. Ms. Ivy Thompson, I'll come to you in just 1 minute, but I want to go to Ms. Seitz now. Ms. Seitz, do you have anything you'd like to add now?
I do. I have a lot of questions. I'm familiar with Mr. Pohana, and there, in fact, was a city push to open up Hoff all the way to Walworth. And it took all of us on Hoff and Audubon to push back on that. I appreciate Jared McFadden's original home. I bought my property in 15, as he did. And he kept his first home, he just completed, within the scope and the spirit of the current housing. Has lovely decks, a good view. So That's part of it. So I wonder if the city is looking at widening Hoff, if that's an idea, because not everyone has the advantage of like Jared's doing, of putting a garage in. It just doesn't happen. These small 2-story homes park on the street. That's the only way they can. So that's a concern. The overall city plan seems to be lacking here. And I'm very aware that the city did push to open it until we as neighbors kind of pushed back on that. I know I moved in, I bought the place in 15 and started construction in 16. We did not know about the variance of the Schwopes home at 2828. Although I love the Schwopes, they've done a great job. But I too, very much like Neighbor House, will be impacted by extreme heights built on Hoff. The other part of that is, again, lack of coherence to plans of the city. My friend who lives on the far west end of Hoff is impacted by the homes built off of Riverside. Not only are they 3 stories, but they open up the rooftop to further noise and people. So we need some sort of control on any rooftop development of any higher homes. Variance is one thing, but when you can open up your rooftop to another living level, it's been quite a problem for my friend, Regina. So I'm very aware of that, because just like Neighbor Houses, I'm horizontal to the river, like Neighbor House's property, and our view will be greatly impacted. And I don't need folks partying, even though I like Ivy and like Fawn, enjoy being a little bit higher off of Hoff. That'll be destroyed if rooftop and further height could be allowed. And looking at the drawing of Mr. Hampton, it appears that really, like 312 Audubon, an original home that now I know Abby and her husband Adam bought that property. That was an original home, and they had views on the lower slope of the property, so they didn't have the opportunity to push back like Jared's suggesting. And quite honestly, he could have 3 decks without going as high as he is. I don't know why a lower deck would be a problem. So the idea of rooftops going higher will greatly impact the quality and the value of my home, as well as anyone else on Audubon, including Jeff Stewart. He's not here, but that's the other problem. So again, we did not know about the variance on 2828. I know my friend Stelina is quite concerned. And I also know that the Schwopes also own the 2 properties are going further west from their home at 2828. That will truly make a cavern for any of the existing 2-family or 2-story homes. So I think we need an overall city plan. Are you going to make Hoff bigger? Because if everyone's going to have parking and Mr. Pohana wants that open, that needs to be known to all of us. It was a surprise back in 2020.
Thank you, Ms. Seitz. Ms. Seitz, could you remind me? I know you said at the beginning of the hearing what your address is on
325
Audubon.
Audubon. So will be across the street from the Neighbor House's future development.
Gotcha. Okay. And it's your testimony here today that the subject property that we're talking about here today, whether it's 2849 or 2850 or 2050, or however it is labeled, what I showed earlier, your testimony here today is that the height is going to impact your property in some way. Is it views of the rivershed?
Absolutely. Especially if they continue, and you'll see this on Walworth, perfect example. They all have rooftop views. So in essence, they have 5 stories. And that's already impacted those of us on Hoff on the far west side. And those are buildings that are built off of Riverside. So Hoff is greatly higher than Riverside, and yet they cannot sit on their porch without seeing people on the rooftop of the homes off of Riverside. So we need architects in the city to really set a standard of where livable space is. If you're 3 stories, or in essence, make a roof area, and now you're 4 stories.
Gotcha. Okay. This is, I have to share this because I
have to say I'm opposed because I think the plans are incomplete.
So
not an this
if I'm seeing this correctly, and this is your home here, right?
Yes,
And the development is proposed for here, correct?
right. And you can see Abby.
So you're saying that that's going to impact your view of the river?
Well, absolutely. If my property was in front of right now, Adam and Abby's home, I'd have to do a rooftop to even see my river.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Ms. Seitz, that you wanted to offer? You said you had questions.
Yeah, I'm asking the city to make substantial future planning of any expansion of Hoff width-wise, because that'll force all homes to make sure they have a garage, and that's a whole new deal, as well as use of rooftops as livable space.
Okay. So we are going to hear from Wes Menzel, who's with the City Planning Department. So Wes, if you are able to comment on any of that, that would be great. Otherwise, Ms. Seitz, I'm happy to direct you to Department of Transportation and the City Planning Department so that you can further inquire about future plans.
There's a conflict of interest going on here. Mr. Bohano is an employee of the City Department of Transportation Engineering. So he is very much in favor of this project because it would also benefit his 3 properties on the very east end of Hoff. He is the one who started the city's view of opening up Hoff to Walworth. So for me to go back to Dot would be like, we're already heard from Mr. Bohano. We know his view. So I would like to have an overall city view that takes in all agencies' perspective.
Sure, and I am happy to offer that to you. And I understand that Mr. Bohana is a City of Cincinnati employee. He's also a property owner over there. I need to weigh that testimony accordingly. So I appreciate again your view here. And yeah, anything else you'd like to provide?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Seitz.
Starkey?
Sure.
May I address something here?
Sure.
Mrs. Seitz continues to misrepresent my position on opening Hoff Avenue. She has in letters to City Council and the administration, which were totally unfounded, and she is continuing. And this is not the forum to be addressing that and about the opening of Hoff and that. So I just wanted to add that, and let's not debate it under the hearing here. I am not in favor of opening Hoff Avenue. Thank you.
Well, now that we've opened the door, to what extent do you have control to open up Hoff or influence over opening? Mr. Poen.
I have no control.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Seitz, I think at this point we're getting a little
No.
we're getting a little out of the scope of what this is about. This is about a height variance and a cumulative excavation and fill along Hoff. Whether or not Hoff changes or doesn't change is frankly not going to be a part of my decision, because there's nothing in evidence at this point to suggest that it's going to happen or not going to happen, or that would have any impact on whether this height variance should be granted or not granted. I don't see that here. I think it's way outside the scope of what we're talking about at this point. I understand that there's some conflict here and some disagreement about a lot of things that are on the periphery of this, but I don't think that those things, I certainly don't think we have enough testimony or evidence entered into this record for it to have any bearing on my decision about the Hoff stuff. So we're gonna have to just leave that as it is. I understand, Ms. Seitz, that you believe that the height will impact your views and will have a negative impact on your property,
as well as the use of roofs as livable space.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you, Ms. Seitz. Ms. Thompson, I've given everyone else a second chance to speak. Ms. Fawn Thompson, I'm going to give you a very quickly if you have something you want to add, but we need to move on to Ms. Ivy Thompson, and we need to move on with this hearing. So Fawn, go ahead.
Yes, I just quickly wanted to say, Ms. Seitz brought up precedents, and I think that's a concern for all property owners, just the precedence of what has been done before because of future development. What's going to happen? We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but will begin to, I guess, secure precedence of these heights or this building. And I think that was her concern, definitely. I don't want to speak for you, Jane, but that's what I pulled from it. Definitely precedence is a concern.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. And we do rely on precedent when we're making these. Of course, it's always a site by site determination. There are, individual characteristics of sites that can buck precedent, but I understand that point, and I appreciate you sharing that with us, Ms. Thompson. I'm going to go to Ivy Thompson now.
I'm going to be easy. I just need to go to take my 3-year-old to preschool. So I just wanted to
Okay,
say
yeah.
thank you.
Anyone is
Appreciate it.
welcome
Let
to
us know if
sign
you need
off
anything.
after they have testified. No one, other than the applicant and the owner, are required to stay. So
Okay,
thank you for your
you.
testimony, Ms. Rucker.
Sure.
Okay, Ms. Thompson, could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, great. What would you like to tell us?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I will be brief. I just want to align myself with the comments that were made by Ms. Stites as well as Fawn Thompson. I will not go through repeating what has been said, but I too want to just point to the notion of precedents being set with the variances, the height variances being approved for the various projects. I am in support of the variance request for Mr. McFadden's project. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Thompson. Ms. Thompson, could you remind me again where the property is that you own over there?
So I am the owner of 2846 Hoff Avenue, which is where the deck is.
Got it. Okay. All right, great. Thank you again for being here, and thanks for your patience. Okay, I'm going to move on to Wes Menzel, who is from the City Zoning Department and prepared a staff report in regards to this application. Mr. Menzel, what would you like to tell us?
Good morning. Just want to clarify a couple things, I guess, like on the addressing. Separate agencies seem to have a different address for it, but the parcel number, this reference corresponds to all the different entities. So I think the parcel number is, what we should probably focus on, and then the city transportation department can finalize any address for the site, as they are the ones that assign the addresses. So next, I don't really have any more comments on the zoning staff report. But I do want to highlight although I think, David, you said that the Hoff Avenue width and design is not relevant. I was just going to say that any new houses that would go in would be required to have off-street parking. So as part of their permit and design, unless of course they get a variance, but that shouldn't necessarily impact the parking on Hoff for any residents. Of course, when guests arrive, that becomes more complicated. But and then I did, while we're during the hearing, I was able to find the permit for the 2828 Hoff and the zoning variance for that. So I did kind of quickly look at the drawings, and it looks like that house, the front facade at Hoff, is approximately 33 feet tall, which is slightly below the height of the applicants at 2850 Hoff. And then I found the zoning variance decision document, which I know, David, you were going to maybe check into that later. And I just found that the variance granted there is for 48-foot height. So just thought I'd mention those couple of things, but I don't have any further comments. Thanks.
Okay. And you said it was 48 feet at 2828 Hoff.
Yeah, let me just.
This is requesting 47.
Yeah, that was zoning case. No, they're requesting a 12-foot, which I guess that would be 47. Yeah. Zoning case ZH20230145.
Yep. Yeah, I'll track it down and review it certainly before this decision is issued. Okay, Wes, nothing else. Any comment on line of sight issues or blocking of views or anything like that?
I mean, I was just looking at the location of the public that the person was talking about. I think it was 325 Audubon. I'm estimating that to be, several hundred feet away from the subject property, so, and with the topography, I'm not sure, without maybe going out there to confirm, but I'm not sure how much that would be impacted by this project.
Okay.
I would say that the people that might be impacted more would be anybody uphill directly, but of course, we've concluded that the uphill properties directly across are city-owned property, vacant. Whoever's at 2842, might have some view blocked, but that's, as someone else pointed out, the front facade is conforming and the back facade is where the variance is requested. So there may be a minimal blockage of view there from 2842.
Okay, thanks, Wes. All right, gonna go back to the applicant and owner. This is your opportunity to respond to any of the comments you've heard from the public and make any closing remarks. So Mr. McFadden and Mr. Hampton, you can both have the floor, however you guys would like to present it.
We've obviously gone over this quite a bit here. I think, again, the point is, as was just mentioned by Wes, that, the front elevation complies. The only height that exceeds is towards the rear, so we'll have a very minimal impact on any views, especially for uphill, which is already going to be above the building considerably. And past that, I think that, otherwise we comply. And again, are very similar to previously granted variances, on adjacent properties.
Okay. All right.
I got just a couple more things, if you don't mind. Like precedent, I guess, I'm not really setting the precedent. There's variances that's been issued, so I'm trying to somewhat comply with those a little bit. The other thing is I am not doing a rooftop deck. It's off the back of the house on that third floor. And then, go back to that garage. It eats up most of that first floor. So that's why that third floor is important for my living space on top. So that's the reasoning behind what we're doing, or what I'm trying to do.
Gotcha. Just a follow up quick question on that. Yeah, just to be clear, there'll be no deck on top of the roof. It's on the back of the third floor. Could you clarify that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Either of you?
Yeah, I mean, if you pull that drawing back up, if you wanted to, real quickly, but there's nothing on the roof at all.
And actually, the roof that we're extending actually covers that back deck. So it's actually, so you can see at the top right there, that's it's kind of a covered porch over a portion of it. So it's actually screening that back third floor deck considerably. But yeah, there's no roof deck on top of the roof at all.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right, we'll leave it at that then. I again want to thank everyone for their time and their testimony. Thank you to all the neighbors for providing your perspective and your input. I understand that I'm never going to know the street and the dynamics of the street as well as you. So it's very important that I hear from all of you, and I really do appreciate your time and your testimony here today. I have a lot to review. I'm going to as I said earlier, to just do a quick site visit within the next 2 weeks. What I do here is, after I make a decision, I write that decision up and put it into a formal written document. That decision, I think as some of you are already aware, is then put into a PDF, and then I email it to everybody who's in the hearing here today. So that you all will have that decision in your email inboxes really just moments after it's complete. That will have, of course, whether the application is approved or denied and any conditions of that approval. It will also contain information about the appeal process. If anyone disagrees with that decision or would like to challenge that decision, there's an appeal process to the Zoning Board of Appeals that is available for 30 days after the decision is issued. Again, all of that will be contained in the decision when it comes out. If anyone has any questions about the process or the procedure or anything else that has happened here today, I'm happy to answer those questions after the hearing is over. You can email me at the email that's in my square there. I cannot take in any more new testimony or evidence. If you think of something that you wish you would have said during this hearing, unfortunately, that time has expired. I can only consider things that are in the application materials and the testimony that I've received here today. So if you do email me or call me to provide more testimony, I will not be considering it and it will not be a part of the case record. Okay, thank you all again. I hope you have a wonderful day and we are adjourned.